All right, so much energy in the room. It's just great for a Friday morning. I've usually, by this time on Friday, I'm like on the downhill. Instead, I'm like really on an uphill, so this is great. I hope you all are enjoying it as much as I am. So welcome back. I hope you had some really great networking and interaction in between. And remember, it's all about putting some things into action. So I also want to encourage each of you, all of you, as you leave today, jot down one or two things that you heard today that are important to you, that you hear from this panel, that you can go back and put into action. Because that's what these programs are about. It's nice to get together. It's great to network. B2B is really important, but taking the action afterward is really what it's all about. So now, leading our panel on Leading Through Uncertainty, Executive Presence, and Personal Branding, leading the discussion is going to be Dr. Taneice Lewis, and let me tell you just a bit about her, and then she will introduce the panel. Dr. Lewis is a powerhouse in business development, certified premier speaker, and two-time certified business coach with over 13 years' experience in launching and scaling successful business ventures. She's deeply committed to empowering entrepreneurs and new business owners, equipping them with the tools and strategies that they need in order to thrive. Her passion, expertise, and dedication make her the perfect choice to be today's leader and guide this next conversation. So, Dr. Lewis, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here today moderating this really important conversation about leadership in uncertain times. We're living in a period of rapid change, whether it's shifting economic landscapes or evolving government policies or just the continuous push for innovation in every industry. More than ever, leaders are being called to adapt. They have to make tough decisions, and they have to empower those around them. So it's a big job. Today, we have a really incredible panel of distinguished executives who have navigated their industries through uncertain times and changes. They bring invaluable experience and wisdom to the conversation, and also in business ownership, nonprofit leadership, and workforce development. So before we jump in and we get started with the panelists, I want to take a moment to just introduce them. First, we have Jessica S. Quintana Boyd. She is a second-generation McDonald's owner-operator. She leads 14 restaurants, and she's deeply committed to community impact. She has worked her way up, starting from the very beginning. She started as a cashier, working children's birthday parties, and then she went to being a swing manager, opening the restaurants on the weekend. So now, together with her mother, she owns these restaurants in Essex, Hudson, and Morris County. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you.
Next to Jessica, we have Cyndie Williams. She is the executive director of the Carpenter Contractor Trust, championing workforce diversity and sustainability in the construction industry. Cyndie oversees CCT's partnerships with the Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters and signatory contractor organizations to promote and support their shared values. Welcome, Cyndie.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we have Daniel Klim, who is the president and CEO of New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association and New Jersey Restaurant Educational Foundation. He has more than 25 years of nonprofit management experience. Welcome, Daniel. So we definitely have a powerhouse on this stage. It's going to be so amazing to hear from you guys. We're going to get started, and of course, at the end, you guys will be in the audience. You will be able to ask any questions that you may have from the panel. So I'm going to get started with this, but I want to open this discussion up with a quote by John Maxwell, which says, "Everything rises and falls on leadership." So with that being said, I want to ask you guys my first question. As leaders, you've all navigated unpredictable challenges in your respective industries. What strategies has helped you maintain stability and resilience during uncertain times? And I'll give that first question to you, Jessica.
Okay, thank you. I think being authentic and being transparent, even when you're going through something rough, I a lot of times share probably more than I should with my team, but I think they need to know if I'm struggling, we're all struggling, and how are we going to fix it? But it's a team effort. So I think with me, I just work through my people and keep them involved, and that's how we get through most of it, all the difficult challenges we have.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that. Cyndie.
Sure. Thank you for allowing me, first and foremost, to be here. NJBIA has been a wonderful partner in my leadership growth throughout the last few years, but I just want to recall or touch upon a tough time, even a few years back, during COVID. And Michelle, I just remember I was a new leader as a council representative for the Carpenters Union at the time. And you held a virtual speak during COVID about just how are we all surviving, right? And it was a time when nobody knew what was happening. And it was such a beacon of hope for all of us in business, because we all tuned in and sat there in our living rooms or our businesses. For us, we're with the Carpenters Union. We have frontline leadership, so we never took a break. We stayed there. But everything was shut down. And honestly, NJBIA was there to say, we have no idea. This is times of craziness, and we're not sure what's happening, but just staying connected is what helped us navigate that issue. And so, NJBIA, even the many years ago, has helped kind of keep us connected as leaders to try to find out what our next steps are.
Wow, so it sounds like community really helped you guys to maintain stability, being connected with the right partners. What about you, Daniel?
So first, thank you to NJBIA, and thank you to all for being here today. We talk about uncertainty, and there's a principle that I still have from my undergrad, from my public relations professor, that sticks with me to this day, and it's a very simple: tell it all, tell it fast, and tell it like it is, right? We just went through immigration. The restaurants and hotels have a lot of immigrant workers there, and there was concern. And what do we know? We didn't know that much. But as an association, we were going to make sure we were moving forward. Tell it all, tell it fast, tell it like it is. We didn't know what was coming, but we could be a resource for our members. We created an immigration resource page for our members. We put up information that was to local, state, national links. It wasn't our personal position. It wasn't anything that we created, but it was a repository area, including with our lawyers, to be able to have webinars and content just to say, hey, we don't know what's happening, but we'll be in touch. We care enough about you. We're going to do this. You have a place to go to, and we'll answer the questions we can as they come about. And I think that tell it all, tell it fast, tell it like it is principle has stuck with me for 30 plus years.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Let me ask you, Cyndie, how would you handle setbacks publicly while preserving confidence in your leadership?
So, our industry is reliant upon how the community is positively or negatively leading in industry. So we are the folks that build large projects in construction. So I'm going to speak to New Jersey because the hot button here is wind, right? We have some setbacks in wind and wind challenges, and we had some wind partners in the room earlier, and I don't know if they still remain here, but there's some stalls and stops with a large project for wind here on the coast of New Jersey. And the Carpenters Union and many businesses alike have put millions of dollars into building this innovative, new change in energy. We had a wind turbine being shipped to South Jersey to train on our members, and invested a lot of dollars. And right now we don't know. That's uncertain times, right? So the fact of the matter is we still serve other industries, data centers, energy sectors, nuclear power plants, all sorts of energy sectors that still remain to be built and needing to be built. And those relationships still need to be developed. Our members need to be put to work. So we have to pivot in these uncertain times to the areas that we can focus on. And honestly, that changes every day. But, those are, we're in unprecedented times, but certainly as a leader, you have to stand up there and say, where can we focus on the things that matter right now and keep our members working, and also continue to connect to our members to tell them how we're working on their behalf, right? Continue to allow them to become informed so that we can together make better decisions.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I'll also give that to you, Jessica, since you have several restaurants that a lot of people frequently visit. How do you handle setbacks publicly while preserving the confidence in your leadership?
I think I'm always transparent in whatever I do. So even if we have things going on in McDonald's, I'm open about it with our customers, with the community. We let them know. We don't try to hide anything. I think when you try to hide things, that's when things go wrong. So I'm just really transparent and open to answer questions, even to, I put our phone number out there, our emails, so our customers, even our crew sometimes, you know, even with everything that's going on with immigration, people were scared. But, you know, I think it's my job to keep them calm. Don't add fuel to the fire, if not be, because if I get nervous, I'm going to make them nervous. And if I start making them scared and sometimes when you put out too much information, you make it worse. So I think my job as a leader is to keep them at bay and keep them calm and let them know, you know, whatever happens, we're going to be here for you.
Right. Thank you. So we're here about uncertainty, right? We're talking about that and leadership in conjunction with that. So uncertainty doesn't weaken great leaders. It reveals them. And I'm sure you all have had those experiences and those challenges within your companies and your organizations that has helped to reveal who you are as a leader. How can leaders ensure that they continue to grow at the same pace as their organization? What strategies would you guys suggest that they can implement to develop their skill, their mindset, and the leadership capacity to match the demands of the business expansion? Daniel, do you want to take that first?
Sure. I think uncertainty is often unprecedented, right? Which means it doesn't come with a manual, doesn't come with a rule book, doesn't come with a map that we can follow. And I know we're all tired of talking about it, but let's take COVID, right? Let's just address it. COVID, we had no idea what we were doing. Businesses shut down, restaurants shut down. We had to determine what was essential. At the time, I was in healthcare. I was representing the physical therapy population, and how were people going to get their services? Well, what good would it have been as a leader to just say, I don't know, right? We had to move forward. You move forward. You figure it out. I go back to my principle of communication. Open communication, even in uncertainty, gives people the comfort to know, especially my members, hey, we don't know what's happening, but we're working on it. We'll continue to communicate. And that's what we did. Our communication became, you know, a daily ongoing thing of here's more information we found. Because not only, I'm running a membership organization. I wanted as many members as possible. So not only was I providing resources, but I heard you talk about value at the beginning. We were trying to create that value. And I think, you know, it's easy to say, what do we do? It's harder to just put that first step forward and just go. Go. And I had a mentor of mine, you know, more cliches, you know, even if you stub your foot, you're moving forward, right? And so move forward. We didn't have a roadmap. We didn't have a playbook. We didn't have anything for these. And we don't have them for certain situations in current times. So what do? Do we handcuff ourselves, or do we just move forward, continue to kind of set that roadmap, and make adjustments as needed? And then you can always reflect and say, I could have done this better, but that helps you continue to move forward. But when you don't have anything to go by, you just need to go forward.
Right. Thank you. So Cyndie, I would like you to piggyback off of that and give some strategies also on mindset that leaders should have when they're moving within that uncertainty, or even when, like what Daniel was saying, when they're moving forward. What's the mindset like for the leader?
Sure. So I'll just take, you know, my team. I run a marketing arm of the Carpenters Union, and so my team is strategically placed throughout the 6-state region that we cover. You know, the experience that I draw from is that I was in the industry as a member, right? So I was out there in the workforce at a time. So I have an interesting look at knowing all of the the engine that was built in order to understand where I am today in marketing. On behalf of the collective or the whole, we represent the contractor, the member, to get out there to market on their behalf in the industry. There's so much uncertainty right now, and I don't want to get too political, but this is the times, and we're all kind of like, peeking into talking about it without really talking about it, but it's uncertain times. So as I'm driving my team to market on behalf of all of us, we're pivoting every day with new information that's coming out to try to stay relevant and also to try to talk to the topics that are here and now in order to not react, because I don't like to react. I like to be prepared, right? So what do? I talk to my team on the regular, and I say, we don't know what's happening, and we don't know how this is all going to come together, but what do we know? What do we know about what our members need? What do we know about what the organization needs as far as marketing? And let's start there. Let's talk about what's coming out on the forefront for needs for New Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania, et cetera, and talk about what we can do to make a change in the now for these types of needs for every state, every region. So really just getting with my team regularly to say, are you plugging into the people that you need to know? And what are you doing to help them with their uncertainty, right? So really just trying to be informed and knowing that there's something that you can do physically without worrying about where it's headed.
Right. Thank you. So you touched on some government stuff, and we're going to go a little bit deeper into that, because I'm sure a lot of the people in the audience are wondering about this too, because we're all experiencing it, right? So the administration's recent implementation of significant tariffs, referred to as Liberation Day, is expected to cause a global economic disruption. How can business leaders prepare for and mitigate the impact of these new trade policies? And I'll let anyone take that question. I know it's a big one.
So I'll take it because I just got back from D.C. late last night. So I was there for Liberation Day. And then we were there watching the Dow yesterday when we were trying to be on Capitol Hill advocating. And, because of the reconciliation package that's coming along, everybody jumped ship. So we only met with a select few congressmen and elected officials, but we met mostly with their staffs. Republican and Democrat, I don't know. That was the answer. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But we know this is happening, right? So how do we explain, and that's what we did, was we tried to explain that here's how tariffs hurt the restaurant and hospitality industry. Here's how it hurts from produce coming from Mexico, or tequila, or beer and whiskey from Canada, or wine from Europe. This is how it hurts. And what I tried to do is, you go to these things and you advocate for your profession and you try to tell. We tried to localize it with them. We'd ask, first question I'd ask, what's your favorite restaurant? Well, keep them in mind when we're telling you these stories that are going to affect boots on the ground. And so we had to go out and tell the stories of and then if you take the governor's proposed budget with a 10% increase on alcohol tax, well, that's a heavy tax for restaurant and hospitality groups. So we've got to come up with solutions and ideas and advocate and lobby both DC and New Jersey to get them to understand that these are the main street businesses that you're affecting. These are the businesses, the local restaurants, that are contributing to the local Little League, that are giving gift cards, that are sponsoring the teams. These are real people you're hurting, not just conceptual ideas that you're implementing. And so trying to take that complex idea and make it simple and impactful so they can see how it affects somebody close to them is the advocacy strategy that we used yesterday and will continue to use moving forward until we get some clarity, not just a ready, fire, aim approach.
Right. And I can imagine how that has been really impactful in the restaurant industry, with like everything that you mentioned as far as things coming out from other places, being outsourced. Jessica, what would you say about that? Because I know that you also, being in the restaurant industry, you must be seeing the impact that it's having on your business.
So yesterday we were just in a meeting with probably 200 McDonald's operators, and people are talking about it. They get nervous. You read a lot of headlines. they put charts up and this and that it's going to cost us this much more. But in McDonald's, they've kind of allocated, we're probably good up until about the end of the year. We were just talking about Happy Meal toys because Minecraft is out, and we were just talking with toys coming from China. We're good up until probably like December, and then we're going to have to start worrying about it. But it is a conversation that's happening everywhere, even in the McDonald's world. But you know, like as they talk about eggs and things like that, McDonald's is such a big brand that they've allocated. We have our eggs for the year. Like we're in a pretty good spot.
Okay, that's good. That's amazing. Cyndie, are you impacted by that at all? The tariffs?
Sure, tariffs. You know, we are an industry where steel is heavily involved, and that's going to be our materials coming in. Metal goods. You know, there's price of screws has tripled in the last. You know, sheetrock screws when you're installing those types of construction-related products. Already, you're starting to see some of those issues in tariffs. So, you know, cost of building materials is going to be a big one for us. But I'll just speak to the executive order on, we operate oftentimes in unionized construction on project labor agreements where it's essential contract that is distributed on behalf of unionized workforce, and project labor agreements allow for skilled trades to be represented on public projects. And an executive order on the government side about construction for government over 35 million, not to get into the weeds, but essentially taking away any labor agreements that could possibly happen on large scale projects have been taken away. So for us, that's an automatic pivot, right? They're taking away these agreements as we speak, and you know, I know federal funding is being pulled in many different directions. So yes, we are affected. Yes, there is a lot of uncertainty with that. The good news is that our folks that are working for us are the best of the best. They're skilled, there's training involved, there's schools. So when it comes to the reality of these projects being built, they're still going to rely heavily upon the people that are skilled to be able to build it. But again, are they going to be working on these projects because this material is so expensive? That's a whole nother conversation. So, you know, we continue to see where the effects are going to be had in our industry.
I'm glad you mentioned some good news. I want to ask you guys about AI really quickly, because AI is also something that has been impacting uncertainty within businesses and entrepreneurs all over, and it's kind of taking over certain jobs, certain titles. As leaders, how do you guys handle AI? Are you incorporating that within your business? Are you leaning forward with it, or are you more so against it for the sake of being able to save the jobs that are within your company? How do you feel about AI right now?
I'll answer. I think AI is coming, whether you like it or not. Some people are scared of it. I mean, I'm learning about it now. You go in ChatGPT, it's amazing what ChatGPT can do for you. But in my industry, they are using AI, and I've witnessed it myself, like in the drive-through. These machines can take orders for you, 100% accuracy. It's insane what's coming. But you still do need, I know people think, oh, we're not going to have anybody to, like a real person there. You still need people, because when the machine and the person start arguing, the machine can't like cut in. So they need a body to say, oh, hold on, stop. And they need a real person to step in and you know, kind of fix it. So it's not like 100%, but it's going to help the industry immensely.
Yeah. Cyndie, is AI coming to construction?
Well, you know, in my world, it's really helped just in the last few weeks. Summarizing 7 or 8 emails through AI has been wonderful. I don't know if anybody's tuned into that on Outlook, but it's been a game changer to have that become a vehicle for folks that are tied to their emails. But as far as our industry is concerned in construction, there's tons of ways that things are becoming automated. I think for us, we are training on this type of technology as it comes out. You know, especially 3D blueprints, they're changing in real time. So jobs are becoming more efficient, and yes, it is becoming faster, stronger, and it's utilizing less people, but we still have to have those people that are skilled to work when these things break down, and also to be able to pivot and change to be able to command the market of the future, right? So we're constantly learning and growing within our apprenticeship training centers to work on this new technology, and to, we have millwrights within the Carpenters Union that work on the machinery that is the new technology coming out. So consider your beltway or your baggage that comes out of Newark Airport. Our millwrights are the folks that build that and also keep it moving, keep it going. So we're always not only building the engine, but sort of changing with how it's affecting business and industry. Yeah. And I think in construction, modular building is a big one. We're starting to move into that direction of faster, better, stronger, but learning to work with those new modalities has been critical for us. We have a lot of contractors that have then gone modular because they realize they either have to pivot and change or they're going to lose their business. So it's just trying to figure out what are the ways to continue to be innovative in these new technologies.
Right. That's great. Both of you guys mentioned the importance that in spite of AI, you still need to have the relationship, you still need to have bodies on the ground to help out, to assist and oversee. So relationships are really key in leadership. That AI or any technology can never replace the relationships in leadership. What are some of the ways that you guys have built and leveraged meaningful connections throughout your careers? Daniel?
I think I've tried to use relationships ever since I got out of college, and I've used them in different disciplines and sectors. I've worked in sports and entertainment. I was in healthcare for 20 years. I'm back in hospitality now, and I have pulled from each of those sectors to help one or another. I have had from sports and entertainment help me in healthcare. I have had people from healthcare now helping me in hospitality. So I have tried to build my network as much as I can by doing this silly thing that's really difficult that people can't do now, and talk to people, right? Not my head down here, buried here, but actually talking to people. And I've had no problem going up to somebody and say, I'm really interested in how you built your success, how you got to where you are. Can I sit down and talk with you? Pick your brain, because you just added somebody to your network, but you also just helped build your leadership philosophy. And so to be able to grab, Cyndie and I just talked 5 minutes beforehand. I'm in hospitality, she's in the trades. We just talked about the plumbing, and I just told her, we made a connection that's totally not relevant to my business, but might have helped her. My wife is a school superintendent. Hey, maybe you can get to what you're talking about, down to the schools, to promote the trades. Well, that has nothing to do with me, but it's in our connection. It's our relationships and our network that we're building to help each other. And that's really what I've tried to that's what I pride myself on, but continuing to build that network and meet people outside of my network, outside of my industry, who may eventually be a benefit to my industry and the job that I'm doing.
Awesome. What about you, Jessica? How have you built meaningful connections and relationships throughout your career?
I've built a lot of relationships with the community, the communities that we do business in. We host a lot of events, book bag drives, toy drives, Halloween parties. Through doing all that, I meet a lot of the people that live in the community. Then I meet the mayors. Then I meet this. When you need a favor, the favor's given. The other way around. So I think being open. Do I want to take every meeting? Do I want to take every phone call? Do I want to answer every text? Sometimes it's a little annoying, but you never know where that can lead to. And meeting him, you met her, and it just goes on and on. So sometimes it's important, even though you think it's going to be a waste of my time, it may not be. So I've met a lot of good people just being part of the community, and keeping those relationships ongoing. And then they come to me asking for things. Will you come speak at the high school? Or would you be willing to give Happy Meals or donate this or donate that? And we go back and forth, and it's been just a great thing for me to do.
Yeah, thank you. I've seen relationships change the trajectory of people's careers, people's futures, just by who you know sometimes, just by making that connection, like you said, Daniel, talking to people that are in the room instead of just being focused on your phone or on a device or something like that. So definitely very important in leadership, definitely crucial. So thank you guys for that. Can you tell me or share a time when you had to lead through uncertain times? Something other than COVID. Give me something that has helped you and what you learned in that lesson that helped you to lead through uncertain times.
Right, okay. A year ago, we took over 4 restaurants in one night, literally overnight. Boom, the next day I have an extra 150 employees. So when they brought it to us and said, oh, do you want to take this deal? I was in my head, I'm like, can I do it? How am I going to do this? Am I going to do it? I brought it to my team. My team's like, we could do it. And, you know, from one night to the next, and it's store by store, employee by employee, fighting fires, 4 different fires in a day in 4 different places at the same time. But I think having a good team behind me, and my family is very supportive. My brothers work with me as well. So can I be in every place at one time? And, you know, we got those 4, but I still had 10. So I have great managers, great bid managers, great directors, a great maintenance team. So everybody is able to be somewhere, and that's how we tackled it. And I think through that, we learned together as a group, there's nothing we can't do. Like, there is nothing we can't do. Nothing phases us anymore. Like, whatever, there's a fire happens, and we're like, oh, we got it. We all come together. We get there. We fix it. We board it up, and the store keeps rolling.
Wow, that's amazing because that's rapid growth, like overnight. 150 new employees, which often leads to mishaps, misunderstandings, and miscommunications when you have to grow that quickly. What were the lessons learned that you got from that experience?
You have to work through others. You have to work through others. You have to trust others. I had to let go of certain things. I can't do everything. I can't answer every question. I can't fight every fire. I can't talk to every employee. I just can't. So you have to have the right people in place to be able to filter that work through and trust them. And then, you know, they have to follow up with you. Oh, this is what happened. You know, I can't tell you I know everything that happens because I think we have probably over 600 employees, 50-something managers. You know, every day is different. Some stores are 24 hours, so it's just constant. Something is always happening every day. But we just have open communication with my people person, with my director, and, you know, there's chain of command. It goes from me, then under me is my director, and then under her it's the supervisors. So everybody has to answer to someone. But I also am not like, I'm very accessible to my employees, to my managers, to everyone, so they feel open and to be able to speak with me.
Great, that's amazing. Cyndie, what about you? When was there a time that you had to lead through uncertainty, and what were some of the lessons that you learned through that experience?
So leading through uncertainty, I draw back through my own personal career and some of the places that I've gone in leadership. And I've gone where I've climbed the ladder to the highest position within the industry, but not here regionally, to the point where I wanted to come more local home here in New Jersey. And the folks that I came to, I basically took a demotion to come back locally. That's the best way to put it. And the folks that I was interacting with for work didn't understand my value at the last job. They didn't realize that I was a high-level leader. Mm-hmm. So I took this job just to get my foot back in the door here locally. And the amount of slack that I took from these individuals, you know, I just kept saying to myself, they don't know that I took a demotion to be here. And here I am just trying to be patient with the process, but just basically head down and do my work, do my job. I think the realization that no matter where you are and what industry you work for, there's always someone in the room that's going to be there to advocate for you or to try to ruin you, right? Mm-hmm. And so just knowing that every day you're showing up with the ability to give your best and live your true integrity in your career and your work is what's going to set you apart. And those were uncertain times for me because I didn't know where my career was headed, and I certainly felt like I was in the dryer and the cycle was on, you know. So through that, I just had the right people notice, you know, those ways that I can contribute and elevate me to my next step. And so, you know, that was a trying time in my life, and you know, here I am many years later putting many pieces together and puzzles together, as Dan mentioned, with all of the industries that he's worked for, doing other things on a bigger level. But really at the end of the day, no matter what, during these uncertain times, it's what can you do right here, right now, to do your best, but also to rely on the folks in the room that you're meeting along the way. And you know, places like these matter.
Right.
So thank you.
No problem. Daniel, what types, with all your experience over 20 years, what lessons have you learned from navigating these uncertain times that you've faced throughout your career?
So I think you build a toolkit. You build a toolkit through the series of events that you go through in different sectors, in different industries. And again, uncertain times are usually unprecedented. And so you're taking your experience, everything you've done, and finding a way to move it forward in a way that may be unconventional, maybe something you're going to try something that you've never done before, but you're going to maybe rely on those past experiences, events, successes, and failures to really move forward towards that outcome of stabilization, right? That's what we really want. Outside of uncertainty, we want stabilization, so that we've gotten to a point where the uncertainty is behind us, we're stable, but once we're stable, we've also got another issue to add or experience to our toolkit that we can rely on moving forward in the future. And that's kind of how I've looked at it. I have no real talent whatsoever. And that's why I've worked in so many different sectors. I've just leveraged problem solving, right? And that's really problem solving through creative approaches, right? And that's the one thing that if there's any takeaway here, and I'm happy to talk about anybody, be creative, right? Don't, just because it's uncertain, well, we've always done it this way. Well, if it's always been done that way, it's always going to be the same result. Is there a way that maybe it's done a different way, and uncertainty forces you to do it a different way?
Right. Awesome. Awesome. And so I want to speak to something that you said really quickly. Really effective leaders don't need titles, but they do need influence, right? So can you tell me what are some of the practical steps that leaders can take to enhance their visibility and their influence? Cyndie.
Yeah, so I'll take my position and role as a woman in the construction industry and just dial it back to when I first started, quickly if I could. I started here. Red Bank was my local when I came as a carpenter in the field. In the 1,000 men that I worked alongside of, there were 3 of us that were women. And I took a gamble and a chance to become a part of an industry that really didn't want me, to be quite honest with you, 26 plus years ago. And everything was trying to shed who I was so that I fit in this industry, right? God bless you. And so being a woman in the industry was something I wanted to hide and just try to prove and show that I could do the work so that I could be a part of this environment. And along the way, I had a lot of, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? All of that, right? So many, many years later and many hats later, have grown in leadership, have done a lot of different things. Really still from the mindset of you go because you work hard. You get because you work hard. You get because you connect to others that see your value and they move you forward. But at this point in my life, I know that being a woman in the industry is recognized, although it still is something that I feel like I don't necessarily want to highlight. It becomes part of my story, right? And the reason I see the value is because I know that there are people that want to do what I did for a living. And there's value in being there and being the person that speaks on behalf of that, right? And so I had to have this growth moment of not just doing the work and proving that I can belong to this organization, but really just understanding what position I play for the people that are coming behind me, right? And so our industry has certainly grown. There's been wonderful things that have happened for women that they can now earn a living and a livable wage next to the person that stands next to them, next to the gentleman that they're working with, and make the same exact wage that they do. And they can be there because they can work hard, right? But at the end of the day, it matters that somebody is there saying you can do this, right? And finding that talent. So it's a matter of being there in the room and commanding that position, although it's something I tried to shed all along the way. Yeah, so thanks.
And Jessica, I'll throw this to you as well, since you've had over 33 years in experience building your way up from the bottom up through the chain at McDonald's. What is it that you feel would be a practical step that can help leaders to enhance their visibility or their influence?
I started when I was 14. That was 33 years ago. Don't add it up. It's 47. So when I was, at the time, my mother was an operator. She still is an operator. She's in the room here. And in the pink. That's Celeste.
Hey, Mom.
So when I was 14 and she had one restaurant, I worked just like anybody else. Back then it was $5.05 an hour. I had no special treatment. I think I had a point to prove to everybody that just because, at home I called her mom, at work it was Celeste. And she treated me just like everybody else. And I think that's what kind of molded me to be who I am today. And I have managers, supervisors that now I'm their boss. At 14 years old, she was my manager, and now she's one of my supervisors, and I'm her boss. And I have people that have been with me 20 years, 30 years, 25 years. There's no friction ever because they've seen me grow up and I've worked with them, and there's nothing that I will ask them to do that I haven't done myself, ever. You name it, I did it. I did wear the Grimace costume. I washed the dishes. I was outside with the hose in the corral with the water. I cleaned the shake machine plenty of times. I worked the overnights. During college, I went to school, wore my uniform to class. I had no shame in my game. I didn't care. I had a goal. I wanted to get in and out of school. School wasn't my thing, but I did well because I know that's what my mother expected and my father. And that was my goal. Get done with school so you can keep on working, and that's what I did. So I think just for me, being a leader that's present and being a leader that works side by side with them, and when I'm in the trenches, even now when I'm in the restaurants, you'll see me, I make French fries, or if the lobby's dirty, I go in, I clean the table. My mother comes in and I'm like, you go over there, go be the hospitality person in the lobby. Go do that. So, I've watched her do it, and I think that's where I've learned, but being that kind of leader to me is what's important.
Yeah, I've seen leaders flourish who are people who are like personable, people who your employees or your staff, they are okay with coming up to you with something. They believe in your vision, they believe in you and your work ethic, they see you working hard, not just giving orders and things like that. So those are really important keys to being leadership.
And I never say, like, oh, he works for me. Or I say they work with me, or they work with us. I think that's important, not to make people feel that way, even though, yes, they do work for you, right? Somebody signs their check, but it's important to make them feel that you're working together.
Yeah, and that leads me to the next statement that I was going to say. So as leaders, they'll come to you for what you can do, but they'll stay with you for who you are, right? How do you balance professionalism with authenticity when developing your personal brands as leaders? Daniel, you want to take that?
be authentically professional. Be yourself, right? If I worry more about my authenticity than rather being authentic, I'm expending wasted energy on my ego versus moving forward. You know, I realize this too. The older I get, the less I care about influence, and the more I care about getting shit done, right? And that's what I want to do. I want to get things done, okay? And if you think I'm influential, great. I will sit down. I will share knowledge. I will listen to what you have to say. But I don't need to be validated. Okay, and that's been my leadership style. You hit the nail right on the head. I've never asked my staff to do anything I haven't already done, right? Which sets a standard, which sets a high bar because I know what my bar is, but it doesn't have to be that, oh, I'm going to disingenuously do something because I want you to do something for me. If you like me, great. If you don't, the sun's still going to come up the next day. It's okay. Right? And with that mindset has allowed me, it's very freeing to not worry about what other people think because you're focused on what you want to get done. And that has something that's come to me over time, and it's been reinforced these last several years that I've been in leadership positions.
Yeah, you're speaking to my soul, Dan. My soul.
I knew I liked you.
I love that. I love everything about that, what you said. Authenticity is not forcing it. It's just being it. It's who you are. It's what you exude. It's something that is not teachable. It's just in you. Cyndie, do you want to grab that?
Yeah, sure. Not too much to add to that, but that is, in my mind, where the rubber meets the road, right? When you can take the human value in it all and really just do your best because you're authentic with who you are. My team was able to go through a training with me in leadership this past year, and I don't even want to mention it too much to my leadership within construction because it's too touchy-feely, right? But it's Brene Brown's Dare to Lead series, and so it was a training that they went through, and it's rumbling with vulnerability in order to be able to be an effective leader. And that sounds really heady and super touchy-feely, but at the end of the day, NASA went through this training program, the military, but it's connecting to spaces and places of humanity. And I think that people that you want to work for are human beings, right? And so I think of the people that I effectively look to for answers, and those are the people that I know that I could say, hey, my kid just had a bloody nose at school, I gotta go. Not these robots that are leading companies. And so just being able to connect to authenticity as much as I can in order to bring out the best in people is what I try to do on a daily basis. And you know, you made a great point about connecting to the people that work for you and saying they work with me. And so I never say that they work for me because it's just, we're in this together, right? So that's kind of the way that I want to lead, and that's the kind of leader that I want to be around as well.
Right, and that shows why you guys are on this panel right now. So because of your wealth of knowledge, I want to make sure we open up the room for questions so that anyone who heard something or has a question that they want to shoot out to you guys can do so. So at this time, does anyone have a question for the panel? No questions?
We have solved the world's problems in leadership.
My name is John Gertica. I work for Citizens Bank. This is a question for the panel, but Dan, you mentioned it, creative problem solving. Could you cite maybe an example that involved failure that ultimately led to the problem being solved? That it wasn't just, hey, here's the idea, let's go with it, and it fixed it, but maybe a succession of failures that then led to a success in that problem-solving process.
Yeah, I've had no failures. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so anybody who's ever advocated in Trenton knows how hard it is to pass legislation. Okay, and legislation in New Jersey, and I heard Michelle giggle a little bit, but it's a 2-year process. It's a 2-year process, and I had a bill when I was in healthcare. I had a bill that was going on for 12 years. 12 years. Right, and you want to talk about leadership, and there's a motto. I was also, by the way, if you want to learn leadership skills, go become a youth coach. Okay, you will learn motivation, communication, strategy. But But it's a philosophy I have called consistent persistence, right? Don't stop. Don't take no for an answer. Just find another way to yes. And we got to a point in one of the legislative sessions where this bill was about to go through. Right? I had done all of my work. This bill was about to go through. And usually legislative sessions end on 11:59 a.m. somewhere on January 16th. And this bill was about to go through, and the governor wouldn't sign it. And how do you go back to 12,000 licensed professionals and tell them the governor didn't sign a bill for a technique that you've been using, your entire career, and now it's not going to happen. Now it's not going to happen. Because what happens is when a bill isn't signed, the next legislative session, you got to start all over again. You got to go through you got to get the bill introduced, 2 assembly committees, 2 Senate committees. You have to have the bills merged. They have to be on the floor. And so we had to go through that all again. And, you can look at it as a failure to not get it done, but, failure isn't failure if a lesson is learned. Okay? And I had to learn a lesson from all those times to figure out how I was going to get the bill through. Now, it took another 2 years. And then at 11:56 a.m., once I had the right negotiation done, the governor signed the bill. So it's understanding in leadership that failure is going to happen. If you don't have a thick enough skin to be able to handle that, don't get into leadership. If you're going to feel sorry for yourself, don't get into leadership. But, failure is going to happen on a daily basis. And so just don't take no for an answer. Find a way to yes. It may not be the 100% ideal outcome you wanted, but there's a way to get to that finish line. And that's just to keep moving.
Thank you. We have another question.
Tom Gilmore, Monmouth Ocean Development Council. Dan, what is your favorite restaurant in New Jersey?
All of them.
Hi, my name is Casey.
I think they want to use it for the video.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Hi, I'm Casey. I'm from K Smart Group. I'm just curious in restaurants what you do to combat high turnover. That's often comes up. So I was just curious about your thoughts on that.
So we actually have a workforce development task force that we're convening to address that specifically in New Jersey. The best restaurants I know pay their employees well, right? They care for them, they provide benefits, and they bring them in as a family and take care of them, which is why the best restaurants I see don't have high turnover. But that is a goal that we have specifically in New Jersey, convening a task force to address those issues, especially with an emerging workforce coming up.
I think we have a question over here.
Hi, my name's Holly. My question is for Cyndie. Seeing female representation in the trades really excites me. What steps are you doing to help bring females with you and making sure that they are properly represented in the trades?
So good question. I used to work specifically for the Carpenters Union, but now I have a bit of a conflict of interest because I work on behalf of the contractors as well. So I used to run a program called Sisters in the Brotherhood for the Carpenters Union, but now I can't do that. And how I plug and play is talking on behalf of women in industry. My colleague and I, Anthony Abrantes, who is the Assistant Secretary Treasurer of the Carpenters Union, he and I just started a podcast not too long ago. So reaching deeper to people in the industry as well as just the general public and talking about, underserved communities, women, how we can plug and play and lift the middle class. That's all topics of conversation that we cover, and just trying to have a deeper reach with industry, schools, the general public is just ways we can connect in a more amplified measure. So we look to do that, but also bringing friends along. My friend Jennifer here, we just met for the first time this morning, but I saw an opportunity for her to come out, and I said, hey, let's bring you along to see maybe what you can learn to grow your industry as well. So just those types of things, whenever those opportunities come up, I try. So thanks.
And then we have one more question available. Okay, yep.
Thank you. My name is Amber Rodriguez. Thank you all for the wealth of knowledge you shared. Jessica, you mentioned something that was really interesting as far as building a very strong team that will help you overcome uncertain times and challenges. Nowadays, a lot of the businesses that I work with tell me how hard it is to find talent and retain talent. So what are your approaches with finding talent in today's environment, retaining that talent, and also making sure that they align with your values and the way that you approach business? And I know this is something that you mentioned, but I'm happy to hear all of your thoughts.
I'll answer. I think for us, we like to grow from within. Every time we hire from the outside, it kind of doesn't work. It's weird, it just doesn't work. When we take people, you know, you kind of raise them as babies, or you have other ones that come in and they're already on the same page. If they've been with you for a while, they already know they're staying for a reason and they're here because you want them there, right? One, their values align with yours and yours with theirs. So it's easy at that point to say, do you want to move up? And sometimes you don't ask, you have to kind of push because people are scared. When I make a shift like that, you know, at times I'll shift 10 stores at once. Like, okay, you're going to move here, you're moving here. Some of them don't like it, nobody likes change, but change is good. It's always good. It doesn't feel good in the moment, but when they move to another spot, they see things differently, what somebody else didn't see, and you know, and I have certain people that know how to make change, so I specifically will put them in places that I know is gonna work. So finding talent is difficult. Finding the right ones is even harder, but if you work with the ones that you have and kind of bring them up and give them an opportunity, and you know, not every decision that I've made works, but I think with me, that's how we make things happen.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure, and I'll piggyback on that just for a second. I think removing barriers for people is really important, and finding talent. We certainly get into schools. We talk about the resources that are out there in schools for folks that are trying to learn more about the industry. But also, we just developed a nonprofit that removes some of those barriers by way of pre-apprenticeship and allowing people to have the resources that they need. So specific to this particular nonprofit that we created, it's removing the barriers by allowing them the tools. So we pay for the tools. We have a partnership with Lyft and Uber rather, for rideshare credits, so that they can get to training and you know, providing access to vehicles. All of those things that could be a stumbling block for people to show up and work every day is something that we try to figure out ways that we can get around. You know, childcare is always one that's an issue for us, that we're still trying to crack that nut because we start at 7 a.m. in our industry, and so a lot of these daycares are not available. So we're still trying to crack that nut, if anybody has any advice. But we just try to know what it is that's going to remove that, you know, barrier for us, and just try to work in those angles.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. This has been an amazing, thought-provoking conversation. I appreciate all of you guys' wisdom, your knowledge, your expertise in your respective industries, and just overall information about leadership. They will be in the room, so if anyone wants to speak to them or had a question that you didn't want to ask publicly, you want to talk to them privately, you can do so. But that concludes the portion of this discussion on leadership.